Hello, my name is Georganne Ford with the Alpha Center for Divorce Mediation. I'm here today with one of our attorney mediators returning to us, Mike Routh. And Mike is going to be discussing with us this dilemma of getting our children vaccinated when the couple's divorced, or I guess going through a divorce. So Mike, it's already such a time of uncertainty with that vaccination, so we'll be interested in hearing how are you handling or what's happening out there for you with these couples.
All right, thanks, Georganne. Thanks for having me. It's good to be here, and we're discussing a sensitive topic today, and I don't even know if sensitive covers it enough. This concept of vaccinating our children from COVID. As you know, recently they just approved the vaccination for kids from 5 to 11, and it's putting a lot of parents in a dilemma. Not only married parents, but also ones that are trying to co-parent after a divorce and making this decision for their kids. There's a lot of different opinions on the safety of this vaccination. And some of the things that they're discussing in regards to this vaccination is how it affects the children in their everyday lives. And so some of the things that they have to be aware of is, the possibility of mandates in school to have a vaccination, or mandates in the sports that they play. Is it going to be required for them to be vaccinated in order to participate in the soccer game on Saturday mornings? Maybe go to camp. Do they need to be vaccinated? So it's a really big decision, especially for parents who are struggling with the safety of it. And so in talking about this, there's been a couple of different court cases locally here in the Philadelphia area that have come out recently, and we'll talk a little bit about them. But, a lot of people are asking, well, what do we do if we disagree?
Right.
We're not just going to run to the courthouse and file a custody action to try to get this determined. So I think one of the main points is being able to, one of the keys that I push in mediation when people ask me, well, how do we go forward and how do we co-parent, is this concept of communication. And I've talked about it in other vlogs that we've done, is that what a key point that is. Regardless of how you feel about the other person, regardless of the past and in the relationship between each other, you need to be able to communicate about your children. So, we're definitely recommending, have a conversation, a candid conversation with the other person about this vaccination, and try to understand their point of view. If they're worried about it, maybe you can take a step back, and wait a little bit to see if maybe some more scientific data comes out to help with the safety issues, to make you worry less about that. There's also a recommendation about we're talking about an assumption of mandates for children, assumption of mandates for school or sports or things like that. Well, maybe you just wait until the mandate actually comes out, because I'm sure by that point they'll have some more data in regards to the safety of the vaccination.
Some compromise of some type.
Finding a compromise because of the sensitivity of the topic, and especially if you don't agree on this thing. This is one of the major decisions that you're going to make for your child. So if you have this joint legal custody, you need to be able to work together on this. So then, they'll ask, well, Mike, what if we can't do that? Then the next step would be to go to your custody agreement or your settlement agreement to see if there's any language in the agreement that sets out how you would go about making these situations. As a mediator, the possibility is I could always, have the clients come in and have another mediation session in regards to this topic. And if they're not able to have a conversation between themselves on their own, maybe they could do that in front of us. Recommend talking to an attorney if that helps, just to get any kind of sensibility in having this discussion. So getting more to the legal side, though, I touched upon that. There's been a couple of court decisions locally here. So if you get to that point, right, where, you're just not seeing eye to eye, and one person is very adamant about getting the vaccination done immediately, and the other person is just completely against it, your next step would be to file a custody action in court in regards to having the judge make a decision on this. So recently in Chester County, a judge down there made a decision, and it wasn't necessarily involving a child. It was involving an incapacitated individual that was a little bit older than that, but still needed a couple guardians making decisions for them. And basically one guardian wanted to get them vaccinated because the person was at risk, and the other guardian was completely against it. The guardian that was for the vaccination presented a very scientific case, using the data that's been presented by the CDC, and if you've been paying attention to the subject that you're aware of, and the other guardian basically presented more of a holistic medicine view of it, brought in a couple people that were believed in that resource as well. And the judge basically said that the scientific data carried more weight. There was more facts behind that, but it wasn't so much as, they were making a decision on whether the person needed to be vaccinated. They just basically gave the decision making for this certain subject back to the person who they thought was better fit to make the vaccination decision. If that makes sense. So they didn't necessarily say, hey, as a result of this decision, you need to go get the person you're responsible for vaccinated. They basically said, you get to make the decision, whatever that may be. And so it's not necessarily the court's going to decide this issue of vaccination, but they're just going to decide which person gets to make the decision in this. The same thing happened locally with us in Bucks County, where the parties went in for the same reason about vaccinating their child, and the judge basically gave medical decisions to the party that they felt better qualified to make those decisions. So they didn't necessarily decide that vaccination was necessary. Once again, they just said this person will get to make the medical decisions. So that's kind of what to expect in court. Like I said, the judge is not going to order a vaccination. They're just going to, pin it back to the party and point to who will now have the legal right to make decisions around the medical care of the child.
So I'm guessing you're going to see this come up more and more in mediation rather than trying to take something like this to court. Hopefully you can help a lot of people sit down and go over those pros and cons.
Right, and that's what I'm hoping for too, Georganne. Like we said from the beginning, very sensitive topic. As you can imagine, people are having trouble when they don't see eye to eye, and right now in our country, it is pretty split on what's correct. And a lot of people aren't too sure whether this is safe or not. And, they are very entitled to have that opinion as well. And especially when it comes to our kids. I know that, we kind of talked a little bit about that before, when we're talking about the safety of our children, that's foremost in what we're concerned about. So right. It is a big issue.
So to kind of summarize what I'm just thinking, what you said is, it would be best, again, as anything else, is to try to compromise. But you had some good suggestions as far as maybe waiting if one person doesn't want it and coming up with an agreement of when that wait period would be over. So helpful, even though we're not, it's still going to be a dilemma, I think, like you said, but it's helpful for you to at least be guiding some of us on what are some people doing to try to work.
Right.
And what are the courts?
Right.
Yeah. So,
and I think a lot of the times, by the time that you get to court, they kind of operate with the assumption that we are headed in the direction of these mandates, and so maybe that's where some of their decision making is coming from. But kind of like we touched on before, until those are in place, there really isn't a requirement. Right. So you're not forced to do this. You can wait and see if some more data comes out that says, hey, this is going to be safe for your child.
Great suggestion. Mike, thanks for taking the time, busy time of year, to come and talk to us about this touchy subject, but it was helpful. We have to talk about it, right?
Right.
So We welcome you back again later, and we thank you for coming today.
Thanks, Georganne.
Any of you that are interested in speaking to Mike or anyone at the Alpha Center for Divorce Mediation, 1-800-310-9085. Thank you.